This is Ryan, Exoderma and Exponential World.
Hey guys, how you doing? This is Lou, also from Exoderma.
We are today going to talk about cities and automation. Pretty complex topic, but first let's sort of give an overview of what cities are and how we think about them, sort of the framework. Lou, you go first.
Sure. So cities are kind of these interesting gatherings of a lot of folks that have different skill sets and abilities, and they all come together and they create this interesting uh, environment for everyone to, I guess, live and thrive in. So there are essential things that cities need, like roads. Roads are like one of the most important things inside of a city, and the better your roads are, the more efficiently things are able to be transported across your city, such as products and things that people need and whatever they're selling. Um, Also, efficient services like water and electricity and housing and all of these other types of things that people are dependent upon in order to survive and be comfortable. That's kind of what a city is I guess, the reason for its development. Now, there's also the bad part of the whole city aspect, right? Because there's always a negative part to anything positive. So that's the pollution and all the stuff that is produced because of the whole gathering of all these people and resources and consumption of, excuse me, of all these things. So yeah, there's a detrimental aspect to the environment that is produced by our city necessity, I guess, or lifestyle, or whatever you want to call it. So what interests me is how these things or these entities will develop into the future, and how we can make them more sustainable and more efficient and productive. That's what's actually interesting to me.
Yeah, no, it's actually the exact same that's interesting to me. I would explain it with a slightly different context. Literally, my context is like biology, in the sense that I recently completed this biophysics course, and one of the things that we talked about were bacterial motility. And one of the interesting things you see with like life, right, is that life eventually scales up. We all know that life was microscopic at some point in the beginning, right? But eventually life scales up. And what is like super interesting is that in order to maintain a low energy state, which is like sort of the premise of most biological organisms, that we want to use as little energy as possible, life forms, depending on the access to resources, tend to group up in order to be more efficient with their resource gathering and consumption, right? And it's not just cities, but it's flocks of birds, it's wolves that hunt together, it's symbiotic relationships between two different kinds of species. Cities are probably the most complex example, one of the most complex examples, in my opinion, because it's like a city is a complex organism by itself. If you could hypothetically draw a circle and identify the city as a singular system unconnected to other like houses or divisions or whatever around it, it would be a complex organism itself. It has a nucleus, it has all these functional features to transport water, sewage, waste. Now, cities are not nearly as efficient as biology is, but I don't think that's always going to be true, which leads to the whole pollution, consumption, cities as a necessity of life type conversation. So, like, I'm completely with you. Okay, so this actually ties directly into what we want to talk about, in my opinion at least, is automation of efficiency, or automation towards efficiency. You mentioned efficient cities, and maybe I don't know if you thought about solutions towards curbing pollution or consumption, or ways to build cities to be ergonomical for humans.
So yeah, there's certain things that I've read about. For example, in order to like alleviate traffic in certain areas of the states where it's very heavy, and it takes people like a lot of hours to get from one place to another. They want to use kind of like data from all the cars that have like GPS positioning stuff.
GPS. Mm-hmm.
And so they'll be able to route the cars that are going a specific direction, you know, once all of this becomes like self-driving cars, obviously people would probably mess it up. But self-driving cars would be able to just alleviate most of the traffic that occurs because people sometimes, I don't know, take certain roads or doing certain things that are probably not as efficient.
Yeah, this specific thing, road specifically, remind me of two things. So you live in New Jersey. I've been in New Jersey a few times. And down south, when you want to turn left, there's a turning lane at an intersection to turn left, right? But like in certain highways in New Jersey, you can't turn left. Like there is no left turn. You have to turn right to go left, right? That doesn't exist in the south. We hop on an intersection, whether or not it's an intersection, we turn left. If there's a median and there's nothing physical in our way, we turn left. So it's one of those interesting things that I criticized when I was in New Jersey last year a few times. But like as I realized, like at the time being, was that there's a reason it's done that way. Is that left turns, for like stopping, like curving left turns or taking them out of the road system prevents accidents. Apparently, left turns in road systems cause more accidents, which is crazy if you think about it. But it makes sense if you think about down south here. Like we don't, I'm not sure if accidents are caused because of intersections, or they kind of are, or not necessarily intersections, but we can turn left anywhere. I don't know if they're caused by that or not. I'm sure there's some kind of role though.
Yeah, the traffic density is also a bit different. So you guys don't have too many cars to
Yeah,
actually.
population,
Yeah.
exactly. That is definitely true. That plays a role into how they do the whole, like as far as how they make road laws. But that goes back into road laws versus actual vehicle positioning, right? Like you can make all the laws you want to, but if you don't know what people are doing with their vehicles, then sometimes the laws are inefficient themselves, which tracks back to your whole GPS positioning thing. In my mind, what I've always thought about was like they actually have semis that they've tested this right now. I'm not sure that they're doing it currently, but one of the ideas is to do fleet autonomous semis. It's high autonomy, right? Where the trucks are all sharing positional data and they're sharing like object detection data, so they know a certain radius around them, no matter how far they are spread out, what vehicles in between them or not. So even if only 40% of vehicles are autonomous and they operate under this high autonomy like efficiency of traffic, where you would see that a lot of car accidents are slowing down in interstates is because one car slows down 15 miles an hour and the car behind it does, and the car behind it does, and the car behind it does. But if that person never slowed down for no reason whatsoever, then it never would have slowed traffic down a mile back. This is how traffic is caused, and they've done these tests, and that's why traffic circles exist, right? But if we had data positioning for a large percentage of vehicles, what you're talking about, like I think I could say it could exist, but I really think it will exist.
Yeah, 100%. And you can make the whole process of food transportation and all these other things that are taken around the city more efficient. And also, if you're using electric vehicles, the pollution would also, air pollution would decrease. And I think also noise pollution, because that's also supposedly a big problem.
Yeah, it definitely, yeah, all those, that's actually super interesting. I mean, like I wasn't thinking about the impact of electric cars as well, but definitely true. I'm not sure how much of a role noise pollution plays, because I've never really read anything about noise pollution, even though I know it's a thing. Um, Pollution itself, I'm really curious whether it's going to be taken on by electricity or hydrogen. There's no real push for hydrogen right now because, I mean, I think Shell is putting it in some gas stations, but they're not actually doing it too much. But those reductions, I don't think about them because I don't ever have that issue. Do you have that issue? Is noise strong where you are?
So yeah, it depends on what's going on outside. Usually, if there's some type of construction on the road, it's obviously very annoying. But yeah, there's certain areas that, due to like where they are and like the things that are around them, like highways or like certain things, the frequency of all the noises actually builds up and adds up to a pretty I would
High
call
decibel.
annoyingly like amounts of like noise that's like just too much to bear.
Yeah.
So yeah, that can be something stressful to deal with, and figuring out how to prevent those areas of noise gathering or noise pollution is actually also like something that engineers and people that work on city planning have to figure out.
So would that be more into like the material design space where you're looking at potentially sound absorbent concretes that would not reflect?
That could be part of the solution. I'm sure that also getting the cars or the engines and
Yeah.
yeah, something along those lines of also reducing the noise from the objects themselves.
Yeah, my thinking is that, so like always when it comes to technologies or solutions or problems, is that there's some kind of, integration lag time in which it's easier to integrate something. So like, my thing is like, what if there was a paint that you could, or like a paint you could put over type of a building, outside of a building, that would dampen sound, you know? That would have many applications than just putting on the outside of a building, obviously. But super interesting. Like, I really wonder, like, I've never thought about noise pollution ever. Like, when I've been in New York City or New Jersey or any of the cities, San Francisco, or like any, like, that's a thing. I can notice it because I don't hear any of it around me, because it's been uh, like out, like there's a lot of space. There really is so much space there. That's actually pretty. Is that for me in cities? For instance, I mean, the parts I've went to, I like some parts specifically because I like a lot of green area. And Madison Square Garden wasn't really, or New York Square, whatever the fucking big rectangle one is in the middle of the state. I don't really. It wasn't really that interesting to me because we have better gardens down, like better parks down here, you know. So for me, greenery, nature is the biggest missing thing, because that could help with pollution and sound.
Yeah, exactly. So there's going to be also a need to think about redesigning the whole, um, thinking of what materials we use to build all of this, specifically also buildings and anything that deals with concrete. So we're going to need to design some type of material that, like we mentioned before, there's so much energy that we produce, right? Especially when we're moving or when we're walking. And it'd be cool to have some material that's like on the ground, like that you use like cement or whatever, but it's piezoelectric at the same time. So as people are walking on top of it, like at a busy intersection or at a train station, they're producing a lot of electricity that can be powering the lights around them, so that it doesn't have to be powered by other means, or even storing the energy, other types of stuff. So that becomes, like I said, more efficient, and we stop polluting as much.
So, um, there's two ways I can go with this. I'm going to go the big direction. The big direction is this. In my mind, the only way to actually build a city that's efficient, like what we're talking about, that can collect energy in a sense, you have two ways really. You have one way where you add on to cities, like what we've been doing for the last couple 100,000, whatever years. You just add on to the city. The second way is you just rebuild a whole new city, which you've been doing every now and then. And my thinking is, in order to actually create a city that you'd be able to track, or at least be able to implement all these innovations into, it take building a new city. Or do you disagree?
Yeah, that's probably it. Building a new city would probably have to be the way. You also have to introduce the concept of new buildings, right? With integrated biology into it,
Yep.
where you would have, I don't know, some type of carbon dioxide to oxygen system that helps the air around it. Because cities are too polluted. If you look at Hong Kong and China, like the pollution levels there get ridiculous. So that's going to probably happen to every city eventually if they don't change the current way of dealing with things.
So this for me is a very very important topic, near and dear to my heart, just because what it makes me think of is, imagine a house that has an infrastructural system, like a thermal system, oxygen purification system, um, what else? Waste reproduction system, like all these things, like a human body, or like a biological organism, but built into a building, right? Something that, like right now, if you like look at our constructs, like they're really rigid constructs. They're designed out of hard material, concrete, insulation, wood, or materials that you have to layer it seems to me more complex than if we could somehow mimic what what a body, like what an organism does, like literally integrating biology into our buildings. I'm not quite sure what it looks like, but
Yeah, I guess the issue is the whole structural integrity of the building, ensuring that it's safe enough for people to be inside of it, with these added designs that would be biological. I'm not sure if like a fully Like you wouldn't be able to
I
make
think
a
like
wood because of the weight required for it to stand. That's why they make it out of concrete and steel. So if you start putting biological things inside of the concrete and steel, it would make it less rigid and be able to support all the force, maybe.
okay, so the infrastructure in itself, like for instance, the human body has calcium carbonate bones. You would not be able to change the infrastructure. So dead rat on that. How about other stuff like the um, water filtration? Like I guess our technology is better than that, huh? Like I don't know. I guess there's not many features you really want to copy over from biology besides collecting waste energy. I guess, right?
Yeah, that's definitely it, and also you want to like gather energy for some source that's
Okay.
using it.
So you think so integrating biology literally means trying to gather the extra energy and I guess sustainably getting rid of the waste or recycling the waste. Those two things together.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And trying to get
Perfect.
something that becomes
Okay.
sustainable longer term and isn't economically devastating.
Okay. So the sustainability. So like 3 points here. One is it. So like it has to be able to gather energy. It has to be sustainable. Um, so this is like so what other so what other metrics? Those are two metrics for it. Like think of a city as an organism. That's what we're doing right now. You just gave it two traits it needs to be an organism, which is it needs to be able to gather energy and it needs to be sustainable. What are the two things that all life needs? Right? Um, what else though? There's more.
Yeah, the filtration that we mentioned aspect.
Okay, so the filtration, do you think that fits under sustainability though? Being the effectiveness of being able to use water or reuse water or air, whatever the context may be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What about, do you think that designing a city for, so in my mind, a city is sort of a balance of human civilization and nature in the sense that there is such thing as buildings being too close, you know, maybe there could be more trees. There could be like, one of the things is there's a bacteria that collects plant waste and converts it into extra electrons. I think I told you about this before. Maybe I talked about it. I don't know. And it would be super interesting to replace all greenery and put that bacteria within the plant, within the fertilizer or the soil, right? Like imagine integrating biology into like I don't know, like having ferns on buildings and like these things produce electricity. You know, we're collecting. They're also filtering the air real time because buildings are covered. I don't know, like all these things. I'm thinking like a jungle slash city type thing is my extreme.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There's definitely also, I mean, there's going to be an issue with, I guess, insects and stuff like that, and all these other types of things.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't really consider much of an issue, which I know it is going to be to most of human civilization.
Well, yeah. Also, like if you need, I don't know, a building where you have, like, I don't know, sensitive equipment, and there's going to be either humidity from the plants or something.
So that's where, in my mind, okay, so this is another crazy idea. I always wanted a house that's 2/3 underground. Okay, I want 1/3 of my house to be on top of the above ground, and I want 2/3 to be underground. I do not understand why we do not have underground cities. It's always been a thing for human civilizations. We've always tried it. We've always done it. We've never done it big, but Elon's sort of getting there with the Boring project, right? Or the Boring Company. But could you imagine though, like the majority of a city underground and some of it being up top. But the up top part is there is grass, there is trees, but underground, like there's light and everything. What do you think about that?
Sounds cool. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. That's yeah. If they were, I'm trying to think of maybe something that would be uh, not beneficial about it, but I can't think of anything right now. So it sounds pretty legit.
Yeah, apparently even earthquakes aren't dangerous underground. Like you might feel a little bit of rumble tumble, but there's not going to be any danger underground because I don't know why, because but there isn't much danger underground. That's one thing. Like you can put in sunlight, you can collect energy, electricity from above ground. You can let animals do it. I don't know. There's so much space underground, and I'm just blown away that we don't use it or we haven't embarked on any. If I was to hypothetically have like $125 billion, however much it costs, that's where I would start, bro. Like I would start with building like big ass underground city.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. We'd have to try it on an island or something. Private island.
That would be cool. So that brings me up to like that would be so cool to have like your own city. I mean, not my own city in the sense I want to control things, but in the city of, in my mind, I have this like you talk about efficiency, sustainability, gathering energy. I have this concept in my mind of how I think a city should be, and the one part that you haven't mentioned that I think is the biggest part of a city is the humans in the city. Who is in the city? What people? What type of people? Why are they in the city? What are they doing in the city? Is it just a city because they're going there to party? Are they going there to learn? Is it Boston where it's where you go there for robotics and education? You go there for intelligent people? Is it New York City where you go there for arts and culture? Or is it, you know? No, 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 no. In my mind, the city is a city of innovation and growth and progress and inclusivity. You know what I mean? Like, to me, the humans in the city are the most important factor because you can make an amazing city but fill it with 70% of people who do not care about sustainability or gathering or filter like any of the sustainability. We'll start with just sustainability, and the city goes to shit within a few years. But you put a whole bunch of fucking people, which by the way, our generation is full of, into a city who care about sustainability and the city existing and their fellow humankind or however you want to, their brother and whatnot. That's a sustainable city right there.
Yeah, for
People,
sure.
the team.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, the only problem, I guess, is enforcing that because, how about people that are going to want to go there that are not that type of people? You just build a wall.
That's no. So the beauty of this is that you don't have to, in my mind, like, so there's two ways to approach handling people, right? One is to set hard lines and boundaries, and this is what we're not going to do, and this is blah, 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 blah. The other way, which I guess a good leader has to be able to do that, but it's not the way that I would choose to lead, is to paint the vision of what is possible. And part of that vision is that if you come into this city, it's because all of the best universities have a hub in this city. Like they've given money to the development of the city, and now they have their own building in the city, and that building is for specifically their students who migrate from there. So this city actually becomes a research city instead. So it's not about who can come or who can't come. You can come and you can stay there. Ooh, but the question again becomes, it's interesting. Let me think on that one. I don't know if you shouldn't keep people from coming to the city. The question becomes, the people who stay at the city have to be giving to the city is the issue, right? Like, that's a hard one, man. That's a hard one because the city has to exist in a capitalist economy, so it has to be in the United States, so it has to be in some economy, some free market economy, but it has to be able to provide for the people who exist in the system. Therefore, if you come to the system, you have to be able to give to the system, and that's weird. That's a weird thing to say, I guess, right now, huh?
Yeah, it's especially I think because sometimes people, I don't know. It's difficult to say the reasons that they might have to be in a city. I guess.
Yeah, that's my thinking is that maybe the population, I guess what I would want to do, I can't tell you the answer to your question. I can't answer. But the way I think about it is to paint a vision of a city designed on such strong culture and values that the only people who would want to come are people who are okay with accepting evolution. No one else, you wouldn't, why would you, if our vision is about a city in which of a system of class is based upon education and learning, not education, but learning and the continual progress of innovation and multidisciplinary effort or whatever that is the community, and you don't agree with it, why would you come? And if you do come, you're more than welcome to join. You're probably going to convert though. That's what it ends up becoming though. Wow. So a really fully functioning city becomes an organism by itself. A cult, essentially. I don't like the idea of it. But then the idea would be, could all humans be in one cult?
I don't know. It becomes a whole other issue above the city.
Right? It really does. So let's backtrack from human psychology to technology, because this one's getting crazy. Automation. We talked about automation from a sustainable perspective. One of the things that touched my mind when it comes to automation is obviously removing people from jobs. But on the flip side of that token is that it will make a lot of services easier or more convenient, more efficient. And you mentioned food transport as one of them. What did you mean by food transport when you said that within a city, like making it more efficient or convenient?
Yeah, I mean, so sometimes, there's traffic jams, and then, products are either, I don't know, supposed to be refrigerated or kept under certain conditions. And if they're under, the sun for too long, it just becomes a worse type of product, I guess. So you can
Okay,
have,
so
yeah, less instances of those. But I'm sure that there's also a need sometimes for restocking, and it could take, a lot of material for you to restock. And I don't know, for whatever reason you need it, more how would it be, like, at this moment, and you don't want to wait a few hours because of your customers or whatever.
so what you're talking about in my mind, the solution is autonomous refrigerated trucks that essentially you load up with whatever product it is that knows how much of it is in there and has a particular delivery schedule. That's one solution, maybe. Another solution would be a smartphone app that would allow the companies and the drivers to put in what they have and what they're delivering and how long they've been in the sun or that kind of where they are in their time. I don't know. What other solutions, or is there a better solution than one of those?
Yeah, I'd have to look more into the whole situation and see what's the worst part of it, and then try to figure out what would be a good solution to that.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm really curious because I think that I would have to imagine there's some kind of app already. So what we're talking about is literally just like like some kind of futuristic solution where it's all autonomous vehicles or whatnot. At least me, that's what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Um, all right. Okay, automation besides food. What other automation applications? Do you think energy collection is one of them, which is literally coating sidewalks with maybe some kind of piezoelectric material that could collect energy? Um, I don't know. Why don't more cities put solar panels on top of like buildings or anything like that? Or the conversion of building glass into solar panels.
Yeah, so I guess the reason for that right now is the cost versus efficiency of the solar panel. It doesn't produce the cost-effective amount of energy for how much it costs to actually buy one for now. But as the technology gets better and it gets cheaper, hopefully it'll start becoming more prevalent. Um, and also, I'm thinking of like another way using this concept of noise, because it's also just energy, right? Noise is just sound waves with energy in them. You can have, I don't know, noise collectors on certain noisy intersections that
Wait, you
can,
can collect noise?
yeah, you can have like a microphone, right? It picks up noise, and you can convert that energy into electricity or something with some type of material that has transducers that work in that way.
You remind me of do you seen the new turbines, the new wind turbines? They do this right here.
Yeah,
Like they stick
exactly.
out of the ground and they do this. Imagine like 1,000 little things in a small little
New York
like
City, like 42nd Street and Ninth Avenue, just
exactly.
collecting energy all day from all the noise that happens.
Could you? You're saying that something like that already exists? Something small, like something that does that?
I'm saying that that would be another way to automate energy uh, storage or efficiency.
Collection. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, imagine you could like create like a sensor like as big as this my notepad right here, and which is like 2 feet by 2 feet. No, like a foot and a half by a foot and a half. This notepad, and it had like 100,000, you know, nanometer, 4 10 nanometer long hairs on it that literally vibrated because of the city and their vibration. Why is that not a thing? Why is that? What would you call that? Name that right now on the spot. What is it called?
The Acoustic Boost. I don't know.
Acoustic boost. All right, that was a really quick one, bro. How'd you come up with that? And it rhymed too. What was that?
Put me on the spot. I had to think.
All right, bro. I don't know if that exists or not, but I'm gonna look at something like that. That's actually really interesting. That's something that definitely to it's something to invent in the future if it doesn't already exist. Okay. All right. So we've covered pretty much. I think with this overarching topic, essentially in your mind and in my mind too, is literally sustainability.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like you could go about it any way you want to, as long as it reaches towards sustainability. That really brings me into this whole concept of where I talked about a city about progress, what about a city about sustainability? Where everyone who lives in the city only lives in the city because they care about sustainability.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. Actually, now that I think about it, you might need a little bit of both. Because if you're just working on sustainability, there might be things that you're restricted from trying to do because maybe it won't match your plan.
You're
But
right.
is that progress? I'm not sure. That's a complicated question.
You're right. It balances so to me, it's like this whole notion of like, freedom of speech and feeling like you're safe to say whatever you want to say. It's like this whole balance between, I guess another way is conventional foundations and the reestablishment of new conventional foundations. How do you measure that, and how do you implement it into the source code in a way that reflects changes across the entire organism or city or whatever it may be? That is one I don't think that we can answer right now, and I'm pretty sure we're out of time too anyway. So it was pretty crazy conversation, but I actually really enjoyed this one because I love cities. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, man, it's interesting to think about what type of environment we're living in currently. What environment used to be the status quo of living, and what will happen in the future. Hopefully, all these nice things that we talked about are things that can be invented or created or become part of the fabric. Otherwise, it might not be sustainable, and people in the future might not be able to have these types of interactions that you and I are having.
Well, my one response to that is that what we're doing right now will prevent that, hopefully.
Yeah,
So, like, in the sense of talking about it, sharing this, like, even just us talking about it, like the whole concept of being able to question found. I'm gonna go into this deep. No, I'm not going to. I'm gonna stop right there. I completely agree with you. Um, all right, if you guys have any questions, let us know in the comment box. Respond, like it, share it, whatever, and we'll see you guys next time.
take care.